My name is Jeremiah. I am a retired Marine, a woodworker, YouTube content creator, and entrepreneur. My passion for woodworking started in about 2013 when I was on a year-long deployment in Afghanistan. About halfway through, they let me go see my family, and then I came back, and it was right around the holiday season, so it was a very dark time for me, very depressed. There was a unit on the base I was working on that had a wood shop, and by chance, I knew the commanding officer, and he said I could go in there and do whatever projects I needed to do for as long as I needed to do them. And so I'd just go in there and lose myself, and it was a great coping mechanism for the rest of my deployment. That's when my passion was really sparked. Fast forward to the end of my deployment, I came home and told my wife I'd really like to do this for a full-time hobby. And she was very supportive of that. And so I bought my first table saw and binge watched YouTube videos and self-taught until I was good enough to make things to sell. And so I built up that passion for a few years. And then when I realized I was gonna finish my career out at 20 years, I sat and thought about what is an ideal profession after I retire. And I really liked the thought of making a living out of doing what I loved, and woodworking was it. A lot of people ask me, why not just build stuff? Why start a YouTube channel? Well, there's a couple reasons for it. The first is that I taught myself by watching YouTube videos. All the OG YouTube woodworkers, like Woodworking for Mere Mortals, The Wood Whisperer, Jimmy DiResta, Bob at I Like to Make Stuff. These are all inspiration for me, and that's how I learned. So it's a way for me to give back to the community. Now, I know I'm not gonna give back to them. They probably aren't even gonna know who I am, but I'm really giving back to the me from 10 years ago. The guy that was me wanting to learn all the things about woodworking. That's where I think that I can make an impact. And so that's one of the reasons why I started the YouTube channel. The other reason why is because I want to leave a legacy for my kids to be able to look back to. You know, my father recently passed away, and it makes you think about why you do what you do. And I want to have an archive of content that my kids can look back on and see that I wasn't in a 9-to-5 job that I hated. Yeah, I never got rich from it, but I did what I loved in a respectable trade and supported my family. I was born into modest circumstances. We weren't rich, we weren't poor. In small town Indiana, I mean, it was a little town that had maybe a stop sign, little bitty school. I was raised by a stay-at-home mom based on Christian morals and values, playing barefoot in the yard, riding bikes and climbing trees and shooting BB guns, drinking out of the hose. My dad provided for our family, but he worked a lot and traveled all the time for Cummins Diesel Engine Company, where he was a sales manager. So my primary influence came from my grandfather. He was a submariner during World War II, so definitely part of that greatest generation. I think the majority of who I am today is because of him. If he would have had his way, he would not have wanted me to be a Marine. He did not like Marines. He thought they fought dirty. He was the one who gave me an initial interest in aviation. You know, I like to say that Top Gun made me want to be a fighter pilot, and Independence Day made me want to be a Hornet pilot, but my pawpaw was the one who really gave me that fascination with aviation. When I was in high school, we moved to the Nashville, Tennessee area, where I joined the Marine Corps Junior ROTC program at the high school I was at. And I very quickly realized that these were my people, and I wanted to be a Marine.
They like eating crayons too. Crayons are tasty.
I received an ROTC scholarship and was commissioned in 2004 and started my career. I did everything from fighter pilot to intelligence officer to a bunch of different random odd jobs in the Marine Corps. Basically anything the Marine Corps asked me to do. People like to ask me what I liked most about flying, and my answer has always been low-level flying. I did a lot of my training in Death Valley and in the mountains over in California, and just flying through those mountains at very low levels was just as fun as it gets. The most terrified I was in the cockpit was on a really bad weather day, landing on an aircraft carrier where you're flying through really thick clouds and you can actually see the ship about 10 seconds before you land and make whatever final adjustments you need, and it was a pretty bumpy ride. Obviously, I landed safely, but I have never been that scared in my entire life, before or since. The thing I enjoy the most about woodworking is really either the challenge or the process. As far as the challenge is concerned, I do a lot of projects that are a challenge for me overall, but there are times when I make mistakes, and so I have to really problem solve to fix those mistakes. As far as process, the process of designing and building and finishing a project is really exciting for me. I really just enjoy taking a pile of raw lumber and turning it into something beautiful. Success for me looks like living an honorable life, providing for my family, and having a positive impact in this world. You know, I don't want to make $1 million in my business. I want to make enough money to support my family, to give generously, and to live adventurously. I just want to sustain our current standard of living coming off of active duty. I want to be able to give generously as well. And so that doesn't just mean money, although that'd be nice to be able to give money to people who are hurting and who need it. But I want to be comfortable enough in my business and make enough money in my business to be able to dedicate time to helping others. And in our family, we love to live adventurously. You know, the Marine Corps gave me a wonderful opportunity to live in other countries and visit other countries. We lived in Japan and traveled all throughout Southeast Asia. We got to visit Europe a couple times, and all that travel gave us a deep appreciation for other countries and their cultures, which gives us the ability to empathize with people who don't live how we live and weren't raised the way we were raised. You know, some of the highlights of all of our travels was that we got to stand on the hallowed ground of Hacksaw Ridge and Bellow Wood, places where, you know, my brothers in arms of long ago fought and died for our country. It was a very humbling experience in both cases. Before retirement, if someone asked me what my hobbies were, I would have probably listed woodworking. But now that I do that as my primary profession, I probably should come up with something better. I do all kinds of things. I preach on the side, love to travel with my family, pretty much anything outdoors, hunting and fishing and camping and hiking, just being outside and enjoying God's creation. But the biggest thing outside of woodworking right now is the calling that I feel to positively impact young men. I want to teach them a trade, but I also want to teach them skills that will be useful for them when they grow into adulthood. Skills that will give them confidence in all kinds of areas like wilderness survival, small engine repair, how to sharpen a knife, but also biblical masculinity. I feel like for the last decade or so, there has been an assault on biblical masculinity, and I want to play a role in reviving it and giving young men an accurate depiction of what it means to be a man according to God's vision. So I want to teach them resilience and godly moral values according to a biblical worldview. And if I can do that, then I think I can positively influence this country and make this world a better place.